The courtroom was silent when King Harris finally leaned forward and spoke. And the moment he opened his mouth, everyone in that room realized something serious was about to unfold. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but the whispers from reporters sitting in the back made it clear that this testimony would shake the hip-hop world. King Harris didn't hesitate. He looked straight ahead and began describing nights that, according to him, were never supposed to become public. The name that kept echoing through the courtroom was his own father, T.I. And the more King Harris talked, the more people understood why this situation had turned into one of the biggest celebrity scandals of the year. For weeks, rumors had been circulating online that 50 Cent had some kind of plan involving King Harris and the ongoing tension surrounding T.I. Those rumors had already spread across social media, but nobody expected the drama to reach a courtroom. Yet here it was happening in real time. King Harris explained that he had grown up around the lifestyle that surrounded his father's fame, and while he respected the success T.I. built over the years, he also claimed that there were things happening behind closed doors that the public never saw. The way King Harris described it made people lean closer, because every sentence sounded like the beginning of another secret finally coming out. King Harris started talking about late-night gatherings at private mansions where celebrities, business partners, and people from the music industry would show up. According to King Harris, these weren't just normal industry parties. He said the atmosphere would change as the night went on, with security tightening around the property and phones being taken from certain guests. King Harris said that he remembered seeing influential figures walking through those rooms, and he insisted that T.I. always controlled the guest list carefully. When the lawyer asked King Harris why he believed these parties mattered now, King Harris answered by saying that the truth about those nights had been buried for years. As King Harris continued, the name 50 Cent suddenly entered the conversation. King Harris claimed that 50 Cent had warned him months earlier that the situation around T.I. might eventually explode. According to King Harris, 50 Cent had already heard rumors about the secret gatherings and the power dynamics surrounding them. King Harris said that when 50 Cent spoke to him privately, 50 Cent made it clear that if the truth ever surfaced, it would change how people looked at several major figures in hip-hop. That statement alone caused a ripple of whispers through the courtroom, because it suggested that 50 Cent had been watching the situation unfold long before anyone else realized what was happening. King Harris then described a specific night that he said stayed in his mind for years. He explained that the event took place at a massive estate outside the city, where luxury cars lined the driveway and security guards were positioned at every entrance. King Harris said he watched his father T.I. greeting guests with a confident smile while music echoed through the mansion. At first it looked like any high-profile celebrity party, but King Harris insisted the mood shifted as midnight approached. Certain rooms became restricted, and only selected people were allowed to enter. King Harris said that moment was when he started questioning what was really going on. The courtroom grew even quieter when King Harris claimed that he had confronted T.I. about those gatherings long before the legal situation began. According to King Harris, the conversation didn't end well. He said T.I. dismissed his concerns and told him he didn't understand how the industry worked. King Harris said that answer didn't satisfy him, and over time the tension between him and T.I. only grew stronger. King Harris explained that he had always respected his father as a hip-hop legend, but the secrets surrounding those nights kept bothering him. Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, the internet was already exploding with reactions. Fans were connecting the dots between King Harris's testimony and the long-standing rivalry between 50 Cent and T.I. Some people believed that 50 Cent had been quietly waiting for this moment to expose something bigger. Others thought King Harris was simply speaking out after years of frustration. Either way, the story had quickly become a headline across every entertainment blog. Back inside the courtroom, King Harris continued describing what he said were patterns surrounding the gatherings. He claimed that certain artists were invited repeatedly, while others were deliberately kept away. King Harris suggested that influence, loyalty, and silence played a big role in determining who stayed close to T.I.'s circle. When asked why he believed 50 Cent might have encouraged him to speak, King Harris paused before answering. He said that 50 Cent had always been known for exposing what he believed were hidden truths in the industry. And according to King Harris, 50 Cent thought the public deserved to know what really happened behind the scenes. As the testimony continued, King Harris described another moment that he said changed how he viewed everything. He claimed that during one of the gatherings, he overheard conversations between powerful industry figures discussing deals, alliances, and strategies that extended far beyond music. King Harris said those conversations made him realize the parties weren't just about entertainment. In his words, those nights were where influence was traded and reputations were protected. Reporters in the courtroom scribbled every word as King Harris spoke. The atmosphere felt tense, almost like everyone understood that each new statement could spark another wave of controversy outside those walls. King Harris repeated that he wasn't speaking out because of revenge. Instead, he said he believed the truth had been hidden for too long. The mention of 50 Cent returned again when the lawyer asked whether anyone had pushed King Harris to testify. King Harris said the decision was his alone, but he admitted that 50 Cent had encouraged him not to stay silent if he believed something important needed to be revealed. King Harris explained that 50 Cent's reputation for speaking his mind gave him confidence that the truth wouldn't disappear once it was spoken publicly. At that point, the courtroom felt like the center of a storm that had been building for years. Every time King Harris mentioned T.I., people exchanged looks as if they were trying to understand how deep the story might go. King Harris made it clear that he still respected his father's achievements, but he insisted that respect didn't mean ignoring things that should be questioned. As the testimony moved forward, King Harris began connecting the timeline of events that led to this moment. He described how the tension between him and T.I. slowly became public through social media arguments and interviews. Those disagreements had already attracted attention from fans, but King Harris said the deeper reasons behind them were never explained until now. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited for any sign of reaction from the people involved. Reporters speculated about whether T.I. would respond directly to the statements made by King Harris. At the same time, people online were wondering if 50 Cent would post something on social media, because his reactions to controversy often become headlines on their own. Inside the courtroom, King Harris finished one part of his testimony by repeating a sentence that immediately caught everyone's attention. He said that the parties were only the surface of a much larger story. According to King Harris, the real issue was the culture of silence that allowed powerful figures to keep certain activities hidden for years. King Harris insisted that speaking openly was the only way to break that cycle. The judge called for a brief pause, but the tension in the room didn't disappear. Reporters rushed outside to update their stories while legal teams prepared for the next round of questioning. Even during the break, the name King Harris was trending online, and the connection between King Harris, T.I., and 50 Cent had turned into one of the most talked about celebrity controversies in recent memory. When the session resumed, King Harris looked more determined than before. He said he understood that speaking publicly about T.I. could damage their relationship permanently, but he believed the truth mattered more than protecting appearances. King Harris also repeated that 50 Cent had warned him that once the story began unfolding, it would attract attention from every corner of the entertainment industry. As the questioning continued, King Harris made it clear that he expected backlash from people who wanted the situation to remain quiet. But he also said that staying silent would only allow the same patterns to continue. According to King Harris, the reason he was willing to speak in open court was because the story had already reached a point where hiding it no longer felt possible. The courtroom session eventually ended for the day, but the impact of King Harris's testimony was only beginning. News outlets rushed to publish summaries while social media debates intensified. Supporters of T.I. defended his legacy, while others argued that King Harris had the right to share his experiences. Meanwhile, many fans were still wondering how 50 Cent might respond now that his name had been mentioned repeatedly during the testimony. What everyone agreed on was that the situation was far from over. King Harris had opened a door that could lead to more revelations, and the involvement of figures like T.I. and 50 Cent meant the story would continue dominating headlines. As the courthouse lights dimmed and reporters packed their equipment, one thing was clear. The drama surrounding King Harris, T.I., and 50 Cent had only just begun, and the next chapter promised to be even more explosive than the first. The next morning, the courthouse was surrounded by reporters long before the doors even opened, because everyone knew the story involving King Harris, T.I., and 50 Cent was only getting bigger. Cameras flashed as legal teams walked inside, and whispers moved through the crowd like electricity. The testimony from the previous day had already shaken the hip-hop world, but what King Harris was expected to say next had reporters convinced that the situation might explode even further. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere felt heavier than before, because everyone understood that once King Harris started speaking again, there would be no turning back. When King Harris took the stand again, he looked calm, but the tension in the room was obvious. The lawyer asked him to continue explaining what he knew about the secret gatherings connected to T.I., and King Harris didn't hesitate. King Harris said that after years of watching those events unfold, he began to notice that the same powerful names kept appearing at the same private locations. According to King Harris, these gatherings weren't random parties. King Harris claimed that every guest had a purpose, and T.I. always seemed to know exactly who needed to be in the room. As King Harris spoke, the courtroom listened closely. King Harris explained that when he was younger, he didn't question the situation because T.I. was his father and a major figure in hip-hop. King Harris said he assumed everything was normal for celebrities living that kind of lifestyle. But over time, King Harris said he started seeing patterns that didn't make sense. King Harris described security teams becoming unusually strict at certain events, and he claimed there were moments when even people close to T.I. were suddenly told to leave specific areas of the house. The lawyer asked King Harris what made him start questioning those moments more seriously, and King Harris responded by bringing up 50 Cent again. According to King Harris, a private conversation with 50 Cent months earlier changed how he viewed everything. King Harris said that during that conversation, 50 Cent warned him that certain secrets inside the entertainment industry eventually surface, no matter how powerful the people involved might be. King Harris told the courtroom that hearing those words from 50 Cent forced him to look back at the situations involving T.I. with a completely different mindset. King Harris then described another night that he said stood out more than any other. King Harris claimed that the event took place at a massive property rented for what appeared to be a celebration connected to a music project. King Harris said luxury cars filled the driveway, while famous guests moved through the mansion like it was just another elite party. But according to King Harris, the mood shifted once the crowd thinned out later in the night. King Harris said certain guests were quietly escorted into private rooms, and T.I. personally greeted several of them before the doors were closed. At this point, the lawyer asked King Harris whether he believed those gatherings were connected to business deals. King Harris paused for a moment before answering. King Harris said that from what he observed, many of the conversations happening inside those rooms seemed bigger than music. King Harris claimed he overheard discussions about alliances, investments, and relationships between influential figures in entertainment. According to King Harris, those meetings often continued long after most of the party guests had already left. As the testimony continued, King Harris repeated that he had confronted T.I. about these situations in the past. King Harris told the courtroom that when he questioned T.I., the response he received was always dismissive. King Harris said T.I. told him that certain parts of the industry were complicated and that younger people didn't always understand the bigger picture. But according to King Harris, those answers never satisfied him, and the tension between him and T.I. kept growing. Outside the courthouse, social media had already turned the story into a full-blown storm. Fans were debating whether King Harris was exposing something serious or simply airing family conflict in public. Many people also began speculating about the role 50 Cent might have played behind the scenes. 50 Cent had a long reputation for confronting rivals publicly, and the idea that 50 Cent might have encouraged King Harris to speak openly only fueled more discussion. Back inside the courtroom, King Harris was asked whether he believed 50 Cent had any personal agenda involving T.I. King Harris answered carefully. King Harris said he couldn't speak for 50 Cent, but he admitted that 50 Cent had always been outspoken about exposing hidden situations within the music industry. According to King Harris, 50 Cent believed that powerful figures sometimes relied on silence to protect their reputations. The lawyer then asked King Harris to explain how the relationship between him and T.I. changed over the years. King Harris said that growing up in the shadow of T.I. meant constantly dealing with public attention. King Harris said he respected T.I. as a father and as a legendary rapper, but he also felt that certain conversations were avoided whenever he started asking difficult questions. King Harris told the court that eventually those unanswered questions created distance between him and T.I. At one point during the testimony, King Harris explained that he remembered reading online rumors connecting 50 Cent and T.I. to different industry conflicts. King Harris said that after hearing 50 Cent's warning about hidden secrets, those rumors started to feel less like gossip and more like pieces of a puzzle. King Harris told the courtroom that he began realizing the entertainment world often hides its biggest stories behind carefully managed images. The room became completely silent when King Harris made another bold statement. King Harris said that the real reason he decided to speak publicly was because he believed silence was protecting too many unanswered questions. King Harris repeated that he wasn't trying to destroy T.I.'s legacy. Instead, King Harris claimed he wanted transparency about the culture surrounding those secret gatherings. Reporters sitting in the back row immediately began writing notes as fast as they could. Every time King Harris mentioned T.I. or 50 Cent, the tension in the room increased. Some observers believed the situation could turn into one of the most dramatic celebrity family conflicts the hip-hop world had seen in years. The questioning continued with the lawyer asking whether King Harris believed the gatherings would have remained hidden if the current legal situation had never happened. King Harris answered honestly. King Harris said that in his opinion, the events would probably have stayed private forever if circumstances hadn't forced the conversation into public view. According to King Harris, the culture surrounding those gatherings relied on people staying quiet. As the hearing moved toward its conclusion, King Harris repeated that he understood the consequences of speaking against T.I. publicly. King Harris said he knew many fans would defend T.I. no matter what was said in court. But King Harris also explained that living with unanswered questions had been weighing on him for years. Before stepping down from the stand, King Harris made one final comment that immediately spread across news headlines. King Harris said that what he revealed so far was only part of the story, and according to King Harris, more details could surface as the case continued. The moment King Harris finished speaking, the courtroom filled with quiet murmurs because everyone realized the situation was far from finished. Outside, reporters rushed to deliver breaking updates while fans continued arguing online about King Harris, T.I., and 50 Cent. Some believe King Harris was finally exposing long-hidden secrets, while others thought the conflict between King Harris and T.I. had simply reached a breaking point. But one thing was certain as the courthouse emptied that afternoon. The story involving King Harris, T.I., and 50 Cent had grown far beyond a simple family dispute. With each new statement from King Harris, the mystery surrounding those secret parties seemed to deepen, and the entire entertainment world was now waiting to see what would happen next.